Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Sound Money Matters Live. This is your host, Daniel Diaz, and we have our recurring guest and expert in the Bullion markets, gold and silver markets, Rob Kientz. What's up, Rob? How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing very well, Daniel. How are you?
Good, good. A bit tired, but doing well. It's been a busy couple of weeks. But yeah, I think everything is going well. We're seeing gold and silver slightly recover today. And I will give it to you. What are you seeing in the markets? What rumors are you hearing about July 4th? It's this week. And yeah, just fill this in.
All right, so I'll start with July 4th. There's a rumor going around that maybe the U.S. will announce like a gold-backed bond or some similar scheme, which kind of honestly, Daniel, fits in with what we experienced in Nashville a couple of years ago at the Bitcoin conference, where Trump, Omasami, and Loomis talked about the sovereign wealth fund and a scheme with gold bullion and Bitcoin. And it wouldn't surprise me if they've been thinking about these types of things. I don't know that it'll happen on July 4th. It felt like to me that there might need to be more rulemaking. There also needs to be a revaluation of the gold before it happens from a book entry standpoint, because I think on the books, at least, it's valued at $42 and not the 4,000 something we have now. So that may occur. I don't know if it'll happen on Independence Day. It would be welcome. I've talked with some friends that are gold and silver guys, just local friends that I know. And like I had a poker game this past Saturday night with a bunch of friends, and they were talking about it. And one of my friends who's been a longtime supporter, you know him pretty well. He's been involved with C4SM stuff. His name's Steven. He said, I would love if they will do it, but I don't think that they will. He's a little cautious about thinking that they're going to do it right now. And I kind of agree with him. That being said, it would be great if they did. I guess from the standpoint of at least they would be using that revaluation to support the Treasury system. I don't think it's going to solve anything. And personally, I would like other ways of addressing the debt issue, but that's sort of the rumor going around. And so we'll see what happens on July 4th. The rest of it, I've been doing a lot of investigations, what's going on with the gold market, because on January 30th, we had the big crash, right? And then it stayed down and it's drifted down the last few months. Now, we know general seasonality is that in May and June, prices are down. July and August is usually somewhere in there is where they start to recover. And usually from about mid-August to the end of August through February is sort of the annual sort of bull market for gold and silver, if you will. And then from like March to June, it's not quite as good. But that's not what we saw happen in January. And so there's really an underlying cause for the gold and silver. And so I did a lot of research, and there was an article that came out on Bloomberg that was reposted on Yahoo Finance. And I did a big video on this, hour-long video on this, where they said the debasement trade is over. Debasement trade is defined as anything non-dollar denominated asset like gold, silver, or Bitcoin. And Bloomberg was positing that once Kevin Warsh was announced as the Fed chair, there's no reason to invest in any other assets. Everybody should go back to business as usual and invest in dollars and treasuries and U.S. stocks and those types of things. And I found the arguments in that article a little bit spurious or maybe not well supported. So I did a whole hour on it. But it's funny that if you connect the dots, the date that Warsh was nominated on January 30th was the date of the gold and silver crash. So whether or not that was cover for bullion banks or other entities using this to short cover and cover all their shorts and bring the prices down, I don't know. But there seems to be a correlation between the expectation of what's going to happen at the Fed and the gold and silver price. Now, I'm not so sure that Kevin Warsh is going to be able to do anything that his predecessors didn't do that would be substantial to eliminating the problem. But that seems to be sort of the scuttlebutt around mainstream financial circles as to why gold and silver hasn't recovered. Now, if you look at it from a technical perspective on the COMEX, which I like to do because I'm sort of a data dork, right? And I like to understand how stuff works from the inside. Spent about 20 years as an investigator, cybersecurity wise and audit wise. So I like to look at details. And if you look at the trade, the open interest or the contracts on COMEX where the prices determine the futures market are not up very much on gold and silver. There's been a nice little sort of mini recovery from the managed money category, which are the financial houses. So we're starting to see some retail demand in gold and silver that the managed money is putting into the COMEX, which is how they get exposure in their funds. They don't buy real gold. They just buy the contracts, futures contracts, and hopefully make a profit on those. And that affects the funds that they're putting them in, which would be a benefit to their customers. So we're seeing a little bit of uptick in that, but we've seen a lot of outflows from the ETFs, unfortunately. So Retail signs on gold and silver are mixed on those paper type of investments, the ones that go through brokerages or go through ETFs, those types of things. Physical demand has not really slowed down. We've had a massive amount of gold deliveries on the COMEX for the June contract.
Yeah.
I don't know what it's going to be. We're probably about the end since it's the 30th. I could probably go look at the end of day today and figure out what that number is. But physical delivery is very strong on COMEX. Retail sentiment down across ETFs and across managed money funds investing in the longs on the COMEX. And I suspect that the seasonal trade will bring gold and silver price back up sometime in August. But really, I think it's going to be the catalyst is oncoming inflation. We've already seen inflation go above 4% in May. It was 4.1. Expectations from a lot of leading financial agencies, even mainstream ones, are that we're going to have a strong bout of inflation the last part of the year. Part of it Strait of Hormuz. Part of it is that we had structural inflation tick up in April and May so far that we have numbers for, and we'll see what happens in June. So that's kind of the story on what gold and silver is doing, all the different aspects of it. I'm not worried. Personally, I think the long-term bull case has not changed at all. It's only gotten stronger. And the seasonal changes don't affect me. I've been through these cycles for about 17 years. However, the crash on the 30th because of the Fed chair being nominated and because people using that to cover and getting out of shorts, I think is a weak argument that's not going to come to fruition. So I don't think gold and silver are going to be down for long. But they are right now. So we have to talk about it. We have to talk about reasons why people are out of that. And I think there's a lot of risk in the system. You've had Turkey and some other countries sell gold. You've had some people stay out of the gold trade. I think people are waiting to kind of see what the economics look like when we get restarted after the summer, typical summer doldrums. And so I think that seasonal trade in gold is going to play more into it this year because of how far we fell. And we're going to have to see how much we recover. I don't know if we're going to get back to 5,500 gold and 121 silver this year. I doubt it, but I think we'll have a nice little uptick in the back half of the year. And it makes sense if you look at fundamentals and the seasonal trade as to what typically happens.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I think we've hit the bottom. I mean, just using my technical charting, I was a broker for a while. I predicted silver was going to drop down to 53. We got down to 55. Gold was going to drop down to about 37, 36. We got down to 39. So, I mean, those are the chart just a rule of thumb, and we've kind of bounced off of those levels. And have you seen the contracts for December for $20,000 gold? There's been discussions that there have been some contracts that are for, I think, December execution date where gold was going to be at $20,000. Have you seen those contracts?
Yeah, I've seen that reported, and I think there are. And I think what's happening is people are going long gold. I think that may be a little effusive because how would you, to get from 4,100 gold, whatever we're at, we're really close to that, to 20,000 that period of time would be completely unprecedented. Hey, everybody in the gold sector would love it. I wouldn't mind. I think it really just reflects, because these contracts are so cheap to get into for big entities. You can take that contract, and if it doesn't fulfill, you're not out a ton of money. You're just out your maintenance margin, right? You
Right.
actually don't have to pay for all the gold in that contract to trade that contract, unless you're either taking delivery or giving delivery, and then the money changes hands. Really, when you're getting into a contract, you're putting a little baby amount in, which is a maintenance or a margin, if you will. And so as long as the trade's in your favor, they don't close you out. If the trade goes against you and you use up all that money, then they'll close you out on a daily basis. So it's not super expensive for these big entities to take that $20,000 bet. And I don't think that they're going to cash out at $20,000. And, but people are tying that in with the July 4th thing,
Right.
Judy Shelton and gold, and thinking, is the U.S. going to revalue it? But my question is, what are they going to revalue it to? Are you going to go from 42 to 20,000? And if they did, think about that. What would the rest of the market do? China is charging, maybe it's 4,200 in China or whatever the number is. Are they going to go to 20,000? Are we just going to revalue the whole gold market? And what happens to the existing COMEX contracts that are in the existing pricing scheme? They're going to have to, the COMEX is on the hook. If you look at it, they're on the hook for paying amounts that traders lose due to exchange related issues. Now, if it went to 20,000, would the COMEX be on the hook for making due on those valuations? Because somebody's going to lose money and somebody's going to gain money. I don't know. There's a lot of mechanics behind that. I don't know. That it seems to me like it would take a lot of stuff going on for that to happen. But who knows? Government could be working in the background doing a lot of this stuff, and we could see a surprise. I don't know. We'll see. I mean, I think everybody in the gold community would say that 20,000 is a fair price if you look at the world.
Yeah.
But I also think it's going to be difficult to do. Not say it can't be done, but I look at those bets on COMEX as somebody knows that the event is going to happen where the dollar busts or at least crashes and treasuries crash, and they're just taking longer dated positions on that. And they probably stair-stepped in a few months. They probably stepped in December. They probably stair-stepped in other months as an asymmetric long bet. It's like you go to Vegas and you put $100 on black and you do it 3 or 4 times. And if you hit it, it doesn't matter that you lost the first few times. And maybe that's what they're doing. Maybe they're putting some money on black just to see what happens. I don't know. But man, would that be interesting if gold went to 20,000 and the rest of the world supported it? If all the exchanges all of a sudden said, yeah, 20,000 is fair, it would seem to rock the currency markets and the treasury markets around the world, not only US, but think about what would happen to everybody else's bonds if gold suddenly goes up 5 times. It would seem to really screw with the financial system in a lot of ways.
Yeah, and Rob Robert H4222, he says, did the U.S. Mint show their hand when they announced a 1-ounce gold Liberty Bell, which is just under 20,000? Yeah. Is that the future revaluated number, and they got out ahead of everybody?
I saw that, and I was thinking, man, that, I think the government's giving clues as to what's eventually going to happen. I just don't know what in time frame it's going to happen. But I think when we looked at the Nashville conference and we looked at Judy Shelton's comment, she's an advisor to the administration. When we've looked at Bissett and Trump, they're planning for something. And obviously that's going to require a higher gold price. And I think whatever the price is almost doesn't matter to me. It just matters that they're going to use gold in the playbook. That's the exciting part to me. And I think that's the encouraging part for gold investors.
Yeah, I agree. And, the whole world doesn't need to reevaluate gold to 20,000. All that needs to be done is the United States announcing that they're reevaluating gold at $20,000, and that's going to send a signal to the rest of the world leaders, central banks, and they're going to be like, "What in the world is the U.S. doing? Why are they reevaluating $20,000?" Right? Because let's say they just do it on the books and they print new currency. Well, people are going to be like, "Oh, well, the U.S. is revaluing $20,000. They have a $20,000 coin. It's $250 face. The Liberty Bell is 5x the current value of the gold Eagle, gold Buffalo, which is $50. So, I mean, if they're going to debase the currency that much, I mean, if they do that, that's going to be an additional $6 trillion of spending that the U.S. government can use. And let's say they use just $1 trillion of that to buy more gold. That is going to drive. There's not enough gold right now in the COMEX and LBA to fulfill $1 trillion order. So that would automatically drive prices up. The world doesn't need to reevaluate gold. All the U.S. needs to do is print a bunch of currency and then try to buy gold off the markets, which will drive the prices up. And it also send a signal to the rest of the world, like, what the heck is going on? Go ahead.
One question on that. If we went to gold 20,000, would that be a sign the U.S. government saying, we know the dollar is eventually on its way out? Because if you go to gold 20,000 and print that currency, wouldn't a lot of financial types say, ooh, you're not believing in the value of the dollar, right?
That's a 500% inflation, instantaneous.
Yes.
And we're used to an average of 10% a year, real if you're using shadow stats. But if we do 500% inflation, those of us that have gold are going to take advantage of that Catalan effect and get the full purchasing power. But it's only a matter of time for that new currency that's printed, whether it's $1 trillion, which is if they reevaluate at the current price, or 6 trillion if they reevaluate at 20,000. That inflation is going to hit the markets once they start spending it and putting it into the economy. So imagine what's going to happen when that 500% inflation, that's 6 trillion new dollars, which is more than we printed during the COVID, all of COVID combined. Imagine what's going to happen when they do that. It's going to drive the price of everything up, and I'm worried that it's going to drive the price of consumer goods, especially food, up. And historically, when people spend up to 40% of their monthly income on food, that's when you start seeing revolutions. That's when you start seeing upheavals because people can no longer eat. So there's a lot of things that could happen if they do reevaluate it at $20,000 an ounce.
Yeah, I wonder. I kind of think that the U.S. government wants to do this, but I think they want to wait until they're ready for the reset, because I agree with you. It basically would trash the dollar. We have a comment in here from David Lauer that says, for the price of gold to go to 20K would require the dollar to be totally trash compared to other currencies. He says, so the price of gold in yuan might not rise as much if China has gold to back it. So it may call into account several things. Is the dollar really stable? You're going to have mass inflation. I think anybody, even if you didn't have a financial background, would say if you revalue gold to 20,000 and you print that much currency, it's not great for inflation. I think even regular average everyday Joes that don't watch this channel probably could figure that out. I mean, that's an easy one to figure out. And then you've got like I said, the competing currencies. To me, it seems like that's the bazooka they want to fire when they're ready for the reset. And are they ready for the reset? This is really the question. I do think, and maybe they are. Hell, maybe they're going to do it before we all expect. A lot of people are saying 2030. Maybe it's now. Maybe they're going to pull it out of the hat and pull the trigger. An element of surprise. The U.S. is going to do this and really throw a monkey wrench into it, because they know that maybe, the dollar and treasury system is in trouble and they've got to do what they got to do to save it. Or maybe this is a trial balloon that they're throwing out to see what the reactions in the financial markets would be. Maybe they're talking about it and rumoring it to see how people would react. I don't know. It just seems like it would be last resort type thing. But I mean, we've been talking about the death of the dollar for so long,
decades.
Maybe we're here. I mean, who knows?
Yeah, and there is a precedent of the United States going solo and shocking the world, like with Nixon, the Nixon shock. That was a unilateral decision that they made without discussing it with the rest of the world to get off the Bretton Woods system.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a precedent of making unilateral decisions that affect the entire world. I wouldn't be surprised if Trump did the Trump shock.
Well, not only that, but you're right, 100% with Nixon. But look back in 1933 with the Executive Order and the Gold Act,
right?
And revaluing gold. So yes, you're right. The U.S. has a history, and the Federal Reserve itself. We didn't want a central bank. We didn't want a central bank. We didn't want a central bank. And then they pass it in Christmas when half the people are in their horses and carriages trying to get home, to South Carolina, and a small group of people pass the Federal Reserve. So
right.
I don't think anything would truly surprise me. I would only be surprised at timing. I wouldn't be surprised at the action. I would be surprised that they're doing it now.
Yeah. And we've been preparing, right? We had the Fed Now program, which was kind of it's around, but it didn't shut it. We've been talking about having our own CBDCs. We have the technology there. The U.S. government does, and then this week the Bank for International Settlements put out an article giving a warning to the world that DeFi and stable coins is disrupting the global monetary system, and that stable coins and DeFi are putting up a what was it? I quoted it yesterday on a show that I was on. That it's challenging the sovereign control of the monetary system. And my response to that was like, yeah, that was the whole point of cryptocurrency and stable coins. that
Hmm.
they are supposed to challenge sovereignty of the sovereign control of the monetary system. It is supposed to disrupt the global financial markets. And you know what the BIS's response to this warning was?
Hmm.
Their response was to combat DeFi and stable coins. They're encouraging central banks and commercial banks, which coincidentally CBDC, commercial bank, central banks, to create their own currencies that they believe are more stable and programmable. So the response to free, a free currency, blockchain technology is the CBDC. They're openly discussing that, and we know because of ISO 2022, which are the government rails for central banks and other and large institutional banks to transfer digital assets instantaneously. That's already been set up. XRP and a lot of the blockchain companies out there have been working with the central banks to create the rails for CBDCs and instantaneous transfer of programmable currency. Um, so it's. I think the reset. All that needs to happen is some type of event
Hmm.
to cause distrust, and that event could be the revaluation of gold to $20,000. That's going to shock the world. That we're debasing our currency by a huge percentage against gold. 500%. We're debasing it against gold by 500%. And if we do it at 20,000, that's going to add an additional $6 trillion to our debt and it's going to go from 40 trillion to 46 trillion instantaneously.
Well, it adds it
Yeah.
to the monetary supply, but I want to point out it doesn't necessarily add it to the debt because it's backed by the asset, right? So they call it revenue neutral, even though the bottom line is it's not. Nothing is revenue neutral. It's going to create more circulating dollars, but but they call it that, right? It increases the monetary supply, but they're going to write it off on the books as an even trade.
And welcome our co-host. He's been in the back and he wanted to jump in and
Sorry, I really
mention.
want to jump in on the talk about the Bitcoin because I tell you what, this is what's really been killing me is that we've been talking about liberty issues. We've been talking about freedom. We talk about what it will take for us to really revolutionize the world and reclaim our freedom and have sound money. And the Bitcoiners have been arguing for a long time that, Bitcoin is the way to do that instead of gold and silver. And I'm sorry, but the proof is in the pudding. And you look at the way, we didn't prevent the Iran conflict, for example. We didn't prevent tyranny by having Bitcoin. The Mises Institute just put out a really great article. I'm going to put it in the comments. And just recently came out with a great article kind of explaining the problem here is it's been co-opted. I'm so sorry, Satoshi Nakamoto. It didn't go the way you planned, but yes, we created this infrastructure. We designed it for the purpose of creating peer-to-peer transactions. It was created for the purpose of protecting liberty, but we've forgotten much too much. We've forgotten how important it is to just hold what you own. If you once you put it onto these exchanges, once the hubs essentially are under the control of a government, it doesn't necessarily prevent the tyranny. Otherwise, it should have prevented the Iran war. It should have prevented the war in Ukraine. It should have prevented a lot of this tyranny. And instead, it was co-opted by a lot of these tyrannical governments.
Yeah, no, 100%. I was on Crypto Mindset yesterday with Keith and I forget the other guys on the show, and we were talking about that. We were talking about how in 2021 when I first went to the Bitcoin conference, you didn't have anybody in a suit. Everybody was in flip flop shirts. They were just a bunch of degens. And then every year that I've attended the Bitcoin conference, and this last year with you, Benjamin. Yep. It was all corporate. It was all corporatists. It was the bankers. It was the large corporations. Mm-hmm. It isn't a degen movement anymore. It has been co-opted, and it's a catch-22, right? Like we wanted to revolutionize money and give it to the people, and we want mass adoption. But for mass adoption, you got to give it to the institutions. You got to get ETFs. You got to get banks involved. Mm-hmm. And then once you give it to control to the banks, that's it. It's co-opted completely, and we no longer have a free monetary system. which is why I am no longer a Bitcoin maxi. I am a gold maxi and a silver maxi, because only gold and silver can constrain government, constrain banks, if they actually allow themselves to not do fractional reserve banking, right? So the whole Bitcoin freedom movement, I think, it's. I haven't read the Mises article. I'll go ahead and read that, but I'm assuming it's like, look, it's been co-opted by corporations, banks. It's no longer the freedom movement that Satoshi Nakamoto, him or they, created, set up to create that whole monetary system, the libertarian monetary system that they wanted to create.
It's so co-opted now that BlackRock owns more of it, not the rest of us, not the people. It's the corporations, it's the banks. But you know what I can hold in my hand? Silver. I can hold it right here. And that therefore will always be the most decentralized, the most freedom supporting, the most real asset you can have.
Yeah, 100%. And Robert asked a good question. Well, first, Elder John thinks that Satoshi Nakamoto was a CIA. That's definitely a rumor out there. We don't know. And then Robert, in 1973, when they valued gold at $42.20 per ounce, was that an arbitrary number, or was it based on the condition of the U.S. dollar? If not, then $20,000 price can also be an arbitrary number. 100%.
It is arbitrary.
The 42, it was arbitrary, but I wonder if, I don't think they ever published the reason, but I wonder if internally they looked at it and said, this is what we need to balance the budget. If we get this much gold in and we get this, we rev out from 35 to 42, we expect, they probably had like an expected benefit. Because how would you come to $42? Like, I didn't see a rationale for why gold needed to be 42 versus 100 or 65 or whatever.
It was probably the budget shortfall that year when they did it.
It probably was. It probably was. Because it confiscated it first through the executive order, which is not really a lawful order, given how our Constitution works. And then they announced a number later, didn't they? Because they didn't announce to people, "Oh, you're going to turn it in. We're going to revalue it," because people wouldn't have turned it in.
Not.
Yeah.
It was a debasement of the currency of 20.63% by going from 35 to 42.22. So why did they debase the currency by almost 21%? I don't know. It could be an arbitrary number. Maybe there was a reason for debasing the currency 20%. At least it wasn't debased 60% when they went from 20 to 35, right? That was a 60% debasement. So I don't know. Maybe it was completely arbitrary. But look, we're living in very interesting times. I think our generations, those that are living now, we're going to see the end of the fiat, the current version of the fiat economy, global system. I think we're seeing the last breaths, because look, there's only so long that the bankers and those in power can steal the wealth of the people before the people start rising up. We saw this with every nation that has debased the currency. There's been revolutions. Mm-hmm. We saw this with the Arab Spring. The inflation, which we exported. Inflation and mismanagement of the finances caused the Arab Spring, the French Revolution. They couldn't eat, and the reason why they were beheaded is like, give them cake. Almost every major internal revolution of a nation is because of the loss of purchasing power, debasement of the currency, and people being hungry, not being able to eat. So, and then there's. We're not even discussing the effects of AI and how AI is going to displace a lot of people from working, which I believe would lead to the government saying, hey, we'll give a universal basic income for those who lost their jobs because of AI taking them over. And to get that basic universal income, you have to download this government-approved wallet. Mm-hmm. Or a wallet approved by the local banks, and we'll give you this UBI. I can completely foresee it, right? And look, in the future, I said this last night in a broadcast, the future is going to be digital, whether you like it or not. I mean, we are on the precipice of being an interstellar species. We're looking to set up a permanent base on the moon. We're looking to set up a permanent base on Mars. If we truly become an interstellar species, Are we going to be sending physical currency, physical money, gold and silver to the moon and Mars? No, it's all going to be electronic. And we're also at the precipice and advent of what the heck is it called? Quantum entangling, quantum encryption. You can literally have a wallet here on Earth and have it anywhere else in the universe. And because of quantum entanglement, you can spend your currency on this wallet that's encrypted with quantum encryption. It's entangled because you have particles from the exact same whatever, a chip, and you can actually spend currency anywhere in the universe, and it will be reflected in the other chip here on Earth. So the future, whether you like it or not, and this isn't stuff I'm making up. You can actually research. There's articles about this right now. That AI is coming. The future is digital, and our only like saving grace is having asset-backed digital currencies, where the digital representation of money is backed by real assets. And I don't know. We're living in very interesting times. They're going to write history books about this. We're going to be getting our old age, and like, yep, I remember when that happened. But it's quite interesting what we're seeing. Go ahead.
Yes, and I would say a lot of us are don't necessarily want government issued non-asset backed digital currency. In fact, I don't really want any government issued currency. I wish we'd just go back to gold and silver. And if they want to regulate weights and measures, fine. And if they want to regulate digital service providers that can digitize gold and silver, that's fine too. And heck, even if you want to go to Bitcoin, a private currency, or Zano or something like that, oh, okay, fine. Any government digital currency I worry about because of the tyrannical aspect of them having a push button on your bank account. And if they tie it into like China's social credit system, can they, and the bail-in laws that are already on the books with Dodd-Frank, that's where I start to get wary. I don't necessarily mind going the digital age. I was in technology for 30 years, cybersecurity masters, all that stuff. But, I don't necessarily want the government to have it. I don't like any form of government fiat currency, whether it be dollars or digital currency. I would prefer if we could go to private solutions. I would love it if they were gold and silver backed. But it makes me nervous when the government has so much control of money and it's a push button system. I mean, at least with the Treasury, they have to be somewhat honest with the treasuries and the debt. And then everybody at least knows that we're in trouble and there's warning signs and there's some level of accountability. But with a digital system, how much accountability is there going to be and how much transparency are we going to have on a government run system? Those are concerns of mine. I think they're concerns of a lot of people that watch my show as well. A lot of people don't necessarily want government issued digital currencies, digital IDs. There is also scuttlebutt going around that governments are developing based off of digital IDs and digital technology, your digital persona, and that they simply can control your digital persona. And because you're digitized everywhere you go, it could affect your ability to use services, spend money, go on vacation. If they get a digital version of us and they can control that digital version, they don't have to have some mafioso type guy in each neighborhood looking at our behavior. They can simply see what we do online. They can implement digital measures, and that will affect our ability to do real life things if everything is tied to this digital economic system. And that's probably, Daniel, more than anything, what scares me about that potential. Yeah. And I know we're going the digital age, but I would love for private companies really to run this and it be fairly regulated to protect consumers. That's the way I would prefer it.
Yeah, and private companies that aren't controlled by banking institutions would be ideal, right? Because I mean, I was saying yesterday, there's so many problems within the world right now. The monetary problems, corruption in government. There's so many things, and the only real solution is we elect people who are statesmen, which is very difficult because the corporations have unlimited amount of cash to elect whoever they want. They can use AI, they can use different data sources to convince people to vote a certain way. And then there's the monetary issue. Look, every major monetary transition that has hurt mankind has been pushed by somebody in the banking institution. Us demonetizing silver was a push from the bankers to demonetize silver in the U.S., which demonetized silver in Germany, which then destroyed the Latin Monetary Union, which was the first decentralized attempt to make gold and silver equal weights and measures of countries minting their own coinage. And the first three banks of the U.S. The Fed is the Fed the third or the fourth? I don't know. We have the first U.S. bank, second U.S. bank. I think the Fed is either the third or the fourth. I forget. But it's always a push, and they just cannot let go of the control and the power. You know, so they're just so many things, and we're just a small little nonprofit trying to do our part, trying to give people the option to use gold and silver in their day-to-day lives. That's why we're pushing Sound Money Movement, our 501c3. This is why we did our TV show, and our TV show is now in post-production. For those of you who have been following for the last couple of years, we're done filming. We're in post-production. We're about to issue our pilot episode. Send it to can we say the channel? It's going to be a big network.
Not sure if you can say it yet, but if you said it, everybody would know.
Yeah. So it's a big network cable television channel that we're going to be airing on. It's going to be 13 episodes, an hour each, and we're going to be using some of that footage in our future curriculum, and we're going to create quizzes and everything to back up our TV show. We're just trying to do our part. Education is key, and the only way to change the world is to fix the money and to educate the world and get them prepared for what is coming. So, there's too many things for me or our little nonprofit to change and fix the world, but we're doing our part. And that's where, we're asking, all of you as well to join the movement. If you are a Sound Money advocate, please join Citizens for Sound Money. And get involved. Your memberships, your donations help us continue moving forward and fighting for the Sound Money movement and pushing forward the vision of getting back to a true sound economy. We have our new membership platform, our social media platform called C4 Gold. Let me actually pull that up. Citizens for Sound Money. Let me share my screen quick. Share screen. I should have had this up before. Share screen. Share entire screen. Boom. How do I do that? There we go. Pull this up right there. So here we go. We got our new C4 Gold community exclusively for Gold members. It's $100 a year. Think of it as Reddit and Facebook mixed together. But it's a private community network where we have different rooms. And right now we have a special where if you join at $100, not only will you get a half ounce of digital Kinesis silver, you'll also get one of our 1/5 ounce rounds from C4SM. So if you it's the official launch July 4th. It'll go public July 4th. So if you haven't joined and you want to be a part of the movement, be a part of our community, please go ahead and join Citizens for Sound Money. And you at the $100 gold membership, and you'll get access to that as well. Wow, a lot of comments. Let me see if there's anything on here.
Yeah, while you're looking through the comments, I just wanted to say, I think the thought of stackers for the last 15 and 20 years that I've been involved was stack and you'll be protected, or at least you'll have as much protection as you can. And I think we're seeing that as we get closer to this switch over, the reset, that you have to do more than that. You kind of have to get involved. And nobody's expecting people to go talk to state legislators like we do at C4SM or to organize a trade association like we're doing. But you can get involved with memberships and being on forums. It really does help. And it does take money. And, if we can get that membership up, that provides money for us to do a lot. It allows us to do more. The funny thing is, when I joined C4SM, when Jim was here and I joined, it was an advocacy organization, but all this other stuff we hadn't done. Now we've got a TV show coming out. Now we're developing training. Now you have this forum and community thing, and now we have our own social media channels. It's actually a lot of stuff going on, and we've been involved in lots of laws and legal discussions, and we've got most of the main players from the gold and silver industry that everybody would recognize together working with us, whether it be influencers or merchants or people that make the stuff, tool and die make. I mean, we've got them all in. So you can at a very small budget make big change. But to make bigger change, we need people to kind of ante up and maybe, provide us some money or at least get involved with us when we do events. All of those things help. And I think it's encouraging to see how far this organization has come in a short period of time. And really, if we can get the gold and silver community rallying around these efforts, it will just amplify what we've already done. And it doesn't take a ton of time or money, just a little bit of a contribution of either would really go a long way for us. So it's kind of like we're like public radio. We got to take donations to do our job, but we feel like we do a pretty good job and we feel like the impact is worth it. So we hope that people see that.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. What we're gonna wrap this broadcast up a little early today, and with that said, we're going to go ahead and do our giveaway. So those of you that are watching right now, go ahead and do hashtag C4SM. We're going to give away 2 C4SM rounds, and we're also going to give away a book. So right now in the comments, the live chat, type hashtag C4SM to enter the giveaway. And we'll go ahead and pull that in a few minutes. We'll bring Benjamin brought himself up, and we'll be giving away 2 1/5 ounce rounds here shortly. So make sure you guys are sharing this. Get some people. We'll pull it here in a couple minutes.
You always like to be a high roller there, Daniel. I was going to say we're running out of these. We're running out of these classic first minting of these rounds, and you're giving away 2 at a time. That's pretty good prize, almost half an ounce of silver.
Yeah, just shy of a half an ounce. It's 0.4 ounces.
That's right, because these are 5th ounce rounds, which is one of the other things that makes them a little bit more rare. It's a lot of fun. It's a good size.
Essentially, our 1/5 ounce rounds are almost exactly the same size as a quarter, and our quarter was pure silver. It had 0.2001 troy ounces. We have 0.000 troy ounces. So we just basically have a pure form of a quarter. I think that's why Jim Forsyth did a 1/5 of an ounce, because it's unique. Nobody's making 1/5 ounce rounds, and I think it was because it was more in line with. I want to throw make a shout out. Neil Shandy is so persistent on pushing platinum and crystallized osmium. He's always here. He's always pushing buy platinum, buy silver, buy crystallized osmium. I just want, every single time, wherever I am, well, it doesn't matter the broadcast. He's pushing out there. So good on you, Neil. All right, let me see. I don't know if I sent my first but I have. Yeah, Elder John, I'm gonna actually do that tonight. I haven't gotten around to sending out. We got 2 weeks of giveaways, so you'll get that. I promise. I'll do that this week.
If we do have enough is enough here, all right, we do have a couple of people who have not sent us their shipping information. Let's see. I've got Roger Mueller, Enough is Enough, Philip Poucher, and Interested Party. None of them have sent me their shipping information for their wins last week, and one of them the week before. So if any of you guys are on, don't forget to send an email to support@citizensforsoundmoney.org so that we can send you your prize.
Yeah, 100%. If you heard that and you are we have starred. Oh, interesting. You were starring that. I didn't realize you could do that. Yeah, you can send them all to me. I'll hold them for it. That's funny. He said, "You can send all those prizes to me. I'll hold them." That's funny. Oh, awesome! I'm glad you got it, Israel or Lear. It's Israel. I'm glad you got it. All right, guys, we're gonna pull it here in 30 seconds. Last chance. If you haven't done hashtag C4SM to enter the giveaway, and we'll pull it here in 20 seconds.
Da, na, na, na.
Dun, dun, dun,
Making sure I've got 'em all.
dun, 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 dun. Yes, be kind, be helpful, and grateful. I appreciate that, Neil. I don't know why you can't see him in the live chat, but he is definitely on YouTube. And we got Neil in there as well. PaleoCon, Talk with Tiffany, Robert, Voodoo Queen. Welcome back, Voodoo Queen. Let's see. Our regulars are here for sure. They're all answering.
All right, should we do it?
We should do it. Let's pull it.
All right, here goes. And can you see it? I'm about to roll.
Yep, we see it.
Here we go. Not everybody who's watching gave us a hashtag or a comment, but
Robert H.
Robert
Isn't
H,
this?
you lucky dog.
Yes, congratulations. I think that's the second or third time winning.
I want to say
God
Robert
love that guy with
H.
the name of Robert. He's the right winner this time.
Robert H has already won twice.
This is his third time. Congrats, Robert. You're gonna make sure you hand out those books.
I throw you on there whenever you're on, right? Whenever you get on, it's another chance to win. So it might as well.
Hey, you guys are stacking for free. You guys are getting some free silver, some good books. So congratulations. Well, guys, thank you so much. Rigged. Of course it's rigged. We're
right? I haven't even met you, Robert, but
Yeah.
he's won a bunch of times. And you know what? Connecticut needs the love, okay?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I think we got people from, it's funny. I think most of our viewers are from Florida, believe it or not. I believe most of the viewers are from Florida, if I'm not mistaken. Or maybe I'm thinking the wrong thing. I might be thinking whatnot. I don't know. I see so many things. But all right, guys. Well, thank you so much for watching. Have a blessed July 4th weekend. I'm actually going to be flying July 4th to pick up my nephews, to bring them back down the evening of July 4th to spend a couple of weeks with me. So hopefully I'll be listening to Trump's speech while I'm flying or when I land. And yes, Florida is hot. Apparently, it's hot everywhere. There is what is it called? A heat wave in Europe. There's a heat wave all throughout the United States, and it's getting pretty hot. I think it has to do. This has nothing to do with C4SM, but I think it has to do with the Atlantic Ocean, the jet stream slowing down and moving further west, and not bringing the warm water. I don't know. It has something to do with that. But regardless, guys, thank you so much. We will catch you next week at 6 p.m. Eastern, and we'll have a recorded premiere on Friday at 7 p.m. Guys, thank you so much. God bless. Keep stacking, and we will catch you next time. Later.